Well, it's Friday and I've got another big amount of mowing ahead of me. I don't know if you can see it's getting fairly high, the grass here at the moment, and definitely needs a mow. I did the front of the house yesterday, so that was good to get that out of the way. A few of my plants are doing okay, although I've got a one that actually is a flowering plant, which is quite healthy, except it's got all these little creatures on the leaves, multicoloured. They look like they might be moths, colourful moths. So a bit worried that they don't seem to be eating the leaves. They just seem to be on them. But it's a bit of a worry. My ginger seems to be going gangbusters. That's really healthy, and I think my biggest capsicum plant is going to produce quite a bit of fruit. So I didn't realise how long they took to grow, but it seems some time. And I'm watching the garlic. I actually planted some garlic that I bought from the supermarket in the off chance it may sprout, but apparently they can use anti-sprouting agents on the store-bought garlic, so it may not actually grow because of that. We'll see, But I'm glad I'm just going for the for a short trip and for a week up to Brisbane or down to Brisbane rather than doing the overseas trip, which would have been 60 days. That's all finished. It's totally finished now. I've finalised everything with Jetstar, and I did it using their chatbot, and it's quite eerie how much information it can actually work out in a conversation. So you're talking to basically an AI software program, and it was able to determine that why I contacted them was that I wanted to get a credit on both flights. They cancelled their international flight to Phuket yesterday, and I was really happy to hear that because that meant I got all my money back as a credit, but that's fine. The credit will be available for at least 12 months, so that doesn't worry me. But I also got a credit on the domestic leg because I was amazed that the actual chatbot was able to understand what I was saying, which was that the other flight was a connecting flight for the overseas trip, and it had enough intelligence to understand that was a useless trip because it was all tied in with the international flight. So that was quite amazing. So they were quite happy. Well, maybe happy is not the right word, but they were prepared to give me the credit. I mean, if they had knocked me back on the domestic flight, I actually would have gone to an ombudsman and pleaded my case because I think it's blindingly obvious that flight was simply there so I could embark upon the international flight which they had cancelled. So I thought I was on pretty strong ground anyway, but it was just today it's all been confirmed. The chatbot actually arranged it for me. They've cancelled the flight, and they said they'll be sending me out credit vouchers by email in 14 days. And the whole conversation that I had with the chatbot is actually I've got a copy of it in email. So it's pretty well set up. But of course, Jetstar want this to work because it's low cost. It's using software as opposed to manpower. And people on the phones cost money. As a matter of fact, my understanding is if you call Jetstar on their call centre line, you charge something like $50 if they have to make changes. So they're not going to wear any of the costs themselves. They're going to pass it on to you as a consumer. So you're better off having a go at the chatbot. I use the complaints portal through this. There's several ways you can get on that bot. And I did initially just through the normal change of ticket or cancellation of ticket, but then I went to complaints and I got onto a much more streamlined system, and that seems to be the way to do it. You basically have to say you're complaining, therefore they put in the big guns with it comes to the AI, I think, and in this case it seemed to work pretty well. In the past, when they've promised to send me out credit vouchers have come through, so I see no reason why it shouldn't work, and I've got a total record of the conversation. So if there's a paper trail, I'm happy. So that's pretty damn good. One thing I forgot to mention about yesterday is when my friend Dave from Melbourne rang up. This is another tragic, well, not super tragic, not as bad as the story I mentioned with that girl who couldn't even go to a mother's funeral in Melbourne. She had to watch it on TV in Darwin, on through a feed in Darwin. It wasn't as bad as that, but it was pretty rough. Poor old Dave couldn't even have Christmas with his friends, and he has lots of friends. He couldn't do it because he tested positive on one of the tests he had. He had an RAT test, they called, rapid antigen test. He did one of those, and he came up positive, and apparently there were kids going to the party. He was just worried he might give a kid the Omicron virus, although I think kids are fairly bulletproof, but I may be wrong on that one. I'll just that's my current understanding. But yeah, so poor Dave, he had to spend it by himself, and I think he had another test and then found out he was negative anyway. So he did another test. He did the full-blown test and found out he was negative. So it was garbage. He said he did have to self-isolate or anything. So. And he really didn't need to miss out on Christmas. This whole thing is so murky, you know, it's very difficult. And people are being affected mentally. I'm sure he was very unhappy about that. I wish I'd actually contacted him now around that time, but I wasn't feeling great either. I wasn't feeling particularly brilliant. You know, all this stuff with the travel, the hassles I've been going through, that was dragging me down too. So, you know, I'm very happy it's been resolved now, because now I can look at alternatives, which might be somewhere like Cambodia, which is much more welcoming. Apparently, Mexico is much more welcoming to overseas travellers. They don't have all these ridiculous restrictions they've got in Thailand. And of course, Vietnam's still closed up. I can't even consider going there yet. Only if it's a package tour deal. That's the only people that are allowed into the country. They seem to be even harder asked than the Thais. It's a general Asian thing, I think. They're much more bulky when it comes to wearing masks. They even have people wearing masks outdoors, which I think's insane. But, you know, what can you say? You know, I've been through these arguments many times. Trying to be logical in this world can drive you crazy. So, yeah, basically, that's the situation. There was something else I wanted to mention. Oh, yes, I was going to mention about... the Thai situation. You have two types of bloggers. You have the optimists and the realists. That's how I call them. Anyway, optimists can be people that are like younger guys, and they're actually they're all gung ho about travel. They're happy to do anything that the government tells them they have to do. How many hoops they have. They don't give a stuff. They just want to keep going forward. The other thing is that they don't want to put on a negative front with their YouTube channels, because they know that that'll put people off. Although that's not 100% true, but they're worried about that anyway. They're concerned about that. So and they may not want to actually rub the Thais the wrong way. There might be a number of agendas there. So what they basically do is they paint this ridiculously rosy picture about travelling there at the moment. Like there's no real encumbrances, like the nightlife is still going full bore, which is total BS. The bars have to shut at 9 p.m. now, so that's hardly unencumbered. And like I said, Bangla Road in Phuket, the main entertainment strip, is actually closed to my eyes for a clean-up. So it's not all rosy. There are apparently some bars close up ostensibly, and then they stay open for a few hours with the shutters up. Apparently that's happening. But I get the impression that the authorities in places like Phuket are getting a little stricter on all that anyway. So things aren't as... It was looking bright up to Christmas. It looked as though things were going to ease, and then the Omicron came along, blew it out of the water. So now you've got those type of guys. I won't mention names, but there's a number of people there and they're generally of a younger demographic. They're pushing the going to Thailand and having a great time and all this sort of thing. There was one exception to that rule. There's a guy called Gabby. He's a nice guy, an Italian guy who's worked in the hotel industry for many years, and he likes a bit of his luxury and what have you. He rides around his motorbike, but he seems to be a genuinely helpful guy. He's trying to clear up information with what you have to do with the Thai pass, and what you have to do with insurance, what you have to do with which particular province you're in, and what the rules are like at the moment. He's very helpful, and he seems genuinely a nice guy. So I wouldn't put him in that same category. The guys I really enjoy, there's a couple of middle-aged English guys who are very honest with the way they portray things, and one of them is Steady Eddie. His name is Eddie Sweeney, and he has a YouTube channel. He's got 40,000 subs just recently, so he's doing really well. And he had a fantastic video of the travails he had to go through for travelling to the Heathrow airport, getting the PCR test. He paid £200 for his PCR test. In Australia, you should be paying about 150 Australian dollars, which would be less than probably £100. So he paid top dollar, and he had to go out of his way to get this stupid test done, which was near Heathrow. And it took him ages to get to Heathrow on a national bus line bus. So look, he'd spent a long time before the flight even took off, and then he had all the worries about the test being positive. There's all these hurdles you have to jump, and he was so relieved when he finally got on the plane. And but then he had the other hurdle when he came back. He had to also when he got to Bangkok, he had to make sure that he was positive there, so then he could go to his hotel that he booked in Patong. Sorry, not Patong, Pattaya. Pattaya, I think that's what we call it. Anyway, but he's very honest about everything. He's a bit of a lone wolf. He likes having a bit of fun with the Thai ladies. He's got a few connections there that he's followed up, and he's very satisfied with that. But he will tell you that places like Pattaya are not the same as they were before. And if you think you're expecting that, well, you're going to be disappointed, because there's a lot less people around, a lot less bars open, and they've got restricted times. But you'll have a guy like Trevor, who also seems like a nice guy, but Trevor actually works in the industry. He's got a bar. He's got a place called, what's it called, Le Pub? I can't forget what it's called. But he's got a place, and he runs a site called Pattaya. It's like Pattaya Rocking or whatever. I'll put it up on screen. I'll get the. It's sort of like making it sound like Pattaya is still the same as it always has been, which is not true, unfortunately. So I mean, but he's dying because of the bloody these restrictions. He's running one of these establishments, so you can understand the poor guy's bloody must be at his wits' end, because he hasn't been able to trade properly for about 2 years. And he's got all his money's tied up in these businesses. So he's got a lot of skin in the game. So that's fair enough. He's not like one of these young guys who just basically wants to make money off their YouTube channel. This guy's also got a business there that he has to. But you can't take him as being making an objective judgment. He's definitely affected by it. So his views, in my opinion, would be tainted. To some degree. I mean, he talks a lot of good sense too, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to how well things are going, it's called Buzzing Pattaya, and it's anything but buzzing right now. Certainly if you look at how it used to be, and I think you've got to be realistic about it. The other guy, apart from Ed Sweeney, another English guy, who only went over there for a short time, but then he actually posted, he tested positive on when he was about to return to the UK. He'd only been in Thailand for 2 weeks, which I think is a really dangerous thing to do at the moment, because you should only go there if you're going to go for long term, because you just don't know if you're going to end up in quarantine. He dodged a bullet. He didn't have to quarantine officially. He did all the right things himself without being prompted. The hotel he was at was really laid back about the whole thing. He didn't have to go to another hotel. He didn't have to go to a hospital. He wasn't forced to do anything. He just kept doing his own tests, and eventually he tested positive. He tested negative, and so he's now free to roam around Thailand again. And that's Peter, and his YouTube channel is Thailand Bound. And it's quite good, and he's a very articulate guy, and he's a very honest guy. These guys are both very honest, and that's what I really appreciate. He's got a South Korean wife, so he's not fooling around in Thailand. But of course, he gets tainted by being a single guy over there, because his wife gave him permission to go over there because she had some family reunion back in the UK. But he always has to basically defend himself because of the assumption if you're a single middle-aged guy over there, you're basically going for cheap sex, and not the case in the case of Peter. So I think it's a bit rough on him, but his site's doing well too. And like I say, they're both articulate guys. They've got they make good arguments. They make good YouTube videos, and they're doing well. So good luck to them. And it just shows you there's a whole gamut of people online. But I'll probably still keep watching this stuff, even though it looks as though I won't be going to Thailand in the near future. I've dodged a bullet. I think I've only actually blown about $25 on this trip because I got the money back for the airfares. That was the big one. I always book with Booking.com, so I could always cancel those bookings, and that was the most. That was over $900 for a month's accommodation in Phuket. But I knew I could always cancel those. That's why I went with Booking.com, because it gives you that flexibility. So, yeah, like I said, I'm only about $25 out of pocket for all of that. It's amazing. I mean, I didn't even have to pay for the damn visa because the people at the Thai embassy didn't look inside my bloody passport to see that I actually gave them the cash for it. So that was another bullet dodge. So that was bloody arsey of me to do that. So I'm feeling pretty okay at the moment as far as the trips is concerned. And I will be looking at alternatives, whether it's actually travelling overseas or maybe a return trip to Brisbane. We'll see how it turns out. If it goes really well, I might just do that. I might go down to Brisbane a couple of times. But at least I've got the credits now with the Jetstar flights, and if I do book an overseas ticket with Jetstar anytime during COVID, I'm going to make sure it's one that I can easily convert into a credit. But yeah, no, I've just been lucky with that they actually did cancel that overseas ticket, and I've got not just the overseas ticket back as a credit, I've got the domestic connecting flight as well. Beauty, very happy. So I hope you've enjoyed this. It's a nice upbeat end to the video. It won't be so upbeat if I shoot a video after actually mowing all this crap. I'm going to be totally exhausted and sweating like a pig. Maybe tomorrow morning, but I doubt that very much. I generally won't do it until the afternoon. Rationalisation is that the grass is drier by then if it's been a sunny day like today. It's mainly because I'm just a slack ass in the mornings. But anyway, that's basically my update. Hope you're coping with all the supply chain problems and all the other COVID-related things, and the people in Victoria aren't suffering too much with Dan's latest restrictions. Please give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, comment, and support the channel if you wish. Thanks. Have a great day.